Okay. Hey, everybody. So it has been so long since I have gotten on here. I was going to say been able to, but that's a lie. So it has been so long since I have gotten on here to talk to you guys. Let me turn this down a notch. And so what I really wanted to talk to you about today is surviving versus thriving, because America. No, just kidding. Are you thriving or are you surviving? And I want to kind of break down some characteristics of these, and like I have them in my hand, here's surviving, here's thriving. And I want to kind of break down and then share some characteristics and kind of elaborate a little bit about both of these. And so, me personally, y'all already know I have been on the growth phase in my life to where I'm just trying so unapologetically and wholly to bear witness to myself. And so I'm going to start out with some surviving. I almost said thriving. Maybe I should start with thriving. No, let's do surviving. Let's do surviving. We're going into this. And so what it can look like whenever we're surviving. So if you're somebody that was like me, you may or may not have been raised to believe that life was meant to be endured, surviving, or that life was meant to be lived and enjoyed. Can we have like a halo moment? Might have to insert that here. So what does it look like whenever we are surviving? We play into instant gratification. We expect it, we need it, and we want it to survive. We do not have the patience within ourselves, within bearing ourselves, to wait for the seeds to blossom, to grow, to sprout, however you want to call it, whichever part of it is opposite of just being in the dirt. We don't want to wait for that. We need instant gratification to get us by. This is allowing yourself to be pacified. You will look for things to soothe you. This can be addictions. This can be unhealthy relationships. This can be validation from other people. This can be, there's so many ways that we can do ourselves wrong in trying to find pacifiers. The thing about that is, though, is that we're looking for quick fixes and band-aids, and this, like, pacifying ourselves goes along with instant gratification, because all of these things kind of like live together in one lack mentality-ness inside of your mind. And so lack mentality is whenever you have zero awareness for where you are at in your mind, in your life, within your journey, and you literally just want more. This can sound like, whenever I get this job, I'll be so happy. Whenever I'm married, I'll be so happy. Whenever I own my own house, I'll be so happy. Whenever I have this certain particular kind of car, I'll be so happy. When I have this job title, I'll be so happy. And I've talked about this a little bit before, but this is a lack mentality. If you're unable to be happy and present with yourself, you're surviving. And I want to say that more gracefully, but it's just honest truth and a really big pill to swallow. It's going to turn Pocahontas off that shuffle because I'll get distracted. And so, yeah, it's a distortion. Living inside of that lack mentality allows us to live our life inside of distortions. Our perspectives are distorted, the way that we view things, which is what perspective is, right? Because there's always perspective versus reality. There's a cup on the table that has liquid in it, right? And one person can come and say that the cup is half empty, and another person can come and say that the cup is half full. Those are both perspectives that we choose to have, right? But the reality of the situation is that there is a cup on a table with liquid inside of it. So our minds, you guys, I cannot stress this enough. Our minds, our thoughts are so freaking smart. We are such intelligent, intellectual beings, and we love to trick the shit out of ourselves and live inside of these distortions. This sweater makes me somebody. This car makes me somebody. Let me turn my stereo up and ride by people with my window rolled down because that makes me somebody. It's not true. Let me spend $300 on shoes because that makes me somebody. False again. And that's why people get to these points in their lives to where they just kind of like soar down quick because they got to what they thought was going to make them happy and fulfill them and complete them. They still felt empty to it. They bought that house. They finally got married. They did this, they did that, and they still feel empty. They worked their ass off to that X amount of salary, a year job or career, and they still feel empty. Happiness cannot be conditional. Just like love. It's just we are as intellectual and intelligent as we are also emotionally intelligent. And there just has to be more than an outside circumstance to feed you. You need emotional nourishment. I will forever be a mental health advocate. I don't care like who has what opinion on that, because being the mental health advocate that I am, I have also become aware of the fact that opinion is the lowest form of knowledge. So where are you at? Yeah, so living in distortions, getting out of a relationship that was crappy and just completely like blaming the other person and bad-mouthing the other person. This is where gratitude should come in and self-awareness should come in, because where were you at in your life to where you were susceptible, vulnerable, open to a relationship with somebody that treats you like shit? And so if you're like me, I created this metaphor about like how much our childhoods really do affect us. Because if you're raised in a mannerism, and you can insert anything here for this blanket analogy, this could have been whatever your poison, your toxin was growing up, you can insert that into the metaphor of this blanket. So if you are raised with a baby blanket that is holy and that is prickly, you do not know any better. You don't know that blankets are supposed to be fuzzy and soft and come in all different kinds of cool colors with patterns and all kinds of things. You don't know that because you only know what you know, and you don't know what you don't know. That's why they say children are so impressionable and so susceptible to outside factors. And so that is a completely different. But let me just try to stay on track here. And so if you've been raised with this holy, prickly blanket, you don't know how to identify what it would feel like to have a cuddly, warm, soft blanket that's freaking foreign to you. And that is just the truth of it. Your childhood is so important. Children are so important and so delicate and fragile. And literally, we can see all of these grown-ass adults on the street and on social media doing all of these horrible things. And it's like, yes, be accountable for yourself. But at the same time, you don't know what you don't know. You know? And I think that it's all about planting these seeds of goodness in your kids, our kids, their kids. You know? They really are the future, and they say that just stripped down bare, like kids are the future, and whatever growth you're allowing for yourself and things like that, those are amazing things that not only you get to fuel yourself and your life with, but then it's like those get passed down onto your kids, and then it's like your kids will end up creating the next generation of the world, you know, the next leaders of the world. And it's just so important, you guys. But anyways, and so, yeah, about this prickly blanket. And then, so that's how we will allow ourselves to get into relationships and friendships and any kind of ships with people that don't have our best interests at heart. And that is the thing about familiarity and comfortability. Like, oh, I can't break up with so-and-so. They're like, it's comfortable for me, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes comfort is not a good thing, you guys. Sometimes it's not good to always be inside of like what you've known, You cannot walk around thinking that you know everything and just act so jaded to life that there could never be anything more to learn and that you just got your shit covered. I'm calling that. I am calling that because I have been a student to myself. It seems like my whole life, but really, truly, genuinely for the past couple of years now. And it literally doesn't get easier, the self-work, making sure that you're aware of yourself, what you're doing, where you're at in your life, making sure that, we'll get on to thriving soon enough. But yeah, and so just like if you can talk about a relationship that you had with your ex and you're like, yeah, they did this, they did that, they did this, just XYZ, painting this person like a certain color. Who were you? Who are you as a person, as an individual that saw somebody that was like that as acceptable? And I'm not going to lie and say that there's not people, but I'm not going to get onto the whole like narcissistic thing. There are people in the world that are really good at just kind of like fronting and that do like to feed on others that don't have an awareness of yourself. And that's whenever more intense things come in, like you have to know your worth, because even if you don't, others can see it. People can, if you're a shitty person, you can see when somebody's a good person. You will find reasons, and I think I've talked about this in one of my videos before, you'll find reasons to just tear that person down, and that can look like many of ways: spreading rumors about people, saying things that's not true. There's even more like manipulative and conniving like links that people will go to allow a good person to seem like a bad person. And that's just literally, you can't take it personally whenever people come for you. Because that literally, everything that you do, whether it's in regards to another person or not, it's all about you. They say that like the world doesn't revolve around you, but your world revolves around you. And whatever you got going in inside, whether it's childhood trauma you've swept over or an ego that thinks that you know shit and run shit and just are like the best person ever, it's that you exude that. And there's people that are bold enough and brave enough that have sat in their own shit long enough. Don't get me on COVID and positive things that happen from that. But there's people that have sat in their own stuff long enough that A, they got tired of it. B, they finally decided to stop being so afraid of recognizing it. And they started to sift through it. Sift through the shit. Sift through it. I mean, self-love. Self-awareness. It is so important, And so back to that lack mentality and living inside of distortions, that lack mentality can look like always wanting more, never being satiated. And I've known so many people throughout my life, and I've been that way too, to where you think you'll just be happy when you get this or when you get that, but happiness isn't external to you the same way, love is not conditional. And a lot of us don't really know that. We haven't got to that point in our growth journey yet, or been bold enough to look at ourselves with eyes so wide, to where you're really just kind of allowing yourself, not the perception of yourself and who and how you think you are, but the reality of who you are and how you are, and it's deep shit, and it's not for the lighthearted. Is that how the saying goes? But I mean, it's because it's hard. It's hard to go around with a heart that is so heavy because it's so big. It almost seems as if the world wasn't made for that anymore. But it's like, I refuse to accept that. And I've had so many people give me crap because I always want to see the best in everybody. And I know that nobody's not an angel. I haven't always been, my best self. And that's just the reality of life and learning and growing. And yeah, but anyways, living in distortions inside of love and relationships can look like blaming the other person to the relationship's failure to its entirety on the other person because they did this or they did that or they did this. And it's like, okay, if it really was all them, What about you is attracted to somebody like that? Oh, they fooled me, they fooled me. What about you is easy to be fooled? You know? What about you is naive to what kind of situations you allow yourself to be put into? And I mean, child, gotta have thick skin to be able to, like I said, not only sit in your own shit, but to sift through it. And that's just what it is. And at the same time, if you did have a relationship that ended badly, what were you able to learn from it? And I can't say this enough. Life, and this is one of the facets of my little bullet point that I have for thriving, knowing that life does not happen to you. That is not why me, boo-hoo. That is not life, you guys. That is surviving, you know, inside of that lack mentality. It's never why you know. Life does not happen to you. It happens for you. And you will be shown what you need to see in order to move forward on your journey through other people. We are all just acting like mirrors to other people, whether it is seeing somebody that is just, that you would consider just so cocky and so loud and so this and so that. But this is where like triggering comes into play, because if you think of us just all walking around like we're just a mirror, you know, because it's what matters is the connection that you have with that person. And so it can be looked at in a way to where if you see something about somebody that you don't like, it's probably low key because it's like a facet or a piece of your personality that you don't like. And so it triggers you. But the good thing about being triggered, I mean, there's nothing wrong with the trigger, you guys. It's going to show you what is in your clip. If you see something that makes you triggered and you got your finger on the trigger, try to fire, you know? I mean, not literally, obviously. But do you have something in your clip, you know? And what is that? Like, what would that bullet be or feel or look like to you? What does it mean to you that you see somebody that's loud and outspoken? And what about you can't stand that? Is it because you're really truly somebody who is loud and outspoken or wants to be that way but doesn't allow themselves to be that way, or maybe was raised to where they were just kind of had it knocked out of them slowly and longly through their childhood, that it's not acceptable to be that way because maybe your parents weren't courageous enough to be that way? And that angle of things can be applied to so many different things about your personality. Maybe you wanted to be a freaking ballerina so bad and your parents were just like, screw that, I'm not paying for you to have lessons, or I don't really believe that you could do that. You know, it's just, you are who you are when you're born, and it's not a secret. Don't try to keep it. It will annihilate you. You will be so sad, and everybody will trigger you. Every piece of you that you are will trigger you when you see it in somebody else. You know, when somebody has nice things, maybe you want nice things too, so you're gonna talk down about her knockoff whatever bag when you know it's not a knockoff. You know, it's just like, why should it upset you that somebody wants to play into aesthetics and look nice, you know? And so yeah, that's about the mirroring. And I mean, triggers also run deeper than that too. I mean, we can be triggered in good ways too, you know. It's like there's light and dark, there's balance to everything in life, you know. And so it just comes to how much you're willing to put into your personal growth, you know. And it can look like surviving can sometimes look like being around people that you really just don't mesh with or don't click with, but being around them anyways because you don't want to be alone. Surviving can look like drinking when you really just hate the way that it makes you feel while you're doing it or afterwards. And that's the thing about how addictions come into play, because those are pacifiers for people, addictions, you know, and you can be addicted to all kinds of things that aren't just drugs, you know. And the thing about addiction is that the addiction itself isn't the problem. It is you trying to solve a problem. And sometimes I know it was really hard for me to be able to look at the core, like the depths of what my problems really were and what type of conditioning I had and grew up with. And that's the thing about trauma too, because trauma isn't what happened to you. And there is a doctor out there, and I love his work so much because he is such a compassionate individual, and he actually was a family clinic practitioner, and then he just took, I guess, I don't know, I guess it was people just affected him. And it's like, hey, and so it's like he really got into psychology and trauma and all those types of aspects of it. His name is Dr. Gabor Mate. If you ever get curious, listen to him speak on YouTube. He is just a plethora of knowledge whenever it comes to trauma. And one thing that he said that really stuck by me and that meant something to me was that trauma is not what happened to you in your life. It wasn't seeing your parents fight. It wasn't being abused. It wasn't, X, Y, or Z of things that can traumatize us. It is how you reacted to it internally. And I know that that sounds harsh to like that or love that, but if you can view it that way, you take the control for what you need to heal outside of other people's hands. Because if you look at it in a way to where this person did this to me, like whenever you look at it that way, that means that you need something from them in order to move on from it. And that's not the case. So if you're able to wrap your mind around that mentality of it, that the trauma that you have isn't from what happened to you, it's from how you reacted to it internally that did something to you or affected you in some way, and that puts the power back in your hands and allows you to release yourself from a victim mentality, which is so worth so much on a person's journey whenever they're trying to heal from childhood trauma and pain and grief or anything. It puts the power back in your hands in regards to your healing. And I just loved that so much. I can't rave about him enough. But we're starting to get a little lengthy here. So I'm going to start talking about, keep pointing out more what thriving looks like. Thriving looks like not only knowing what boundaries are, but the ability to recognize and even further to create and enforce them. So what is a boundary? A boundary is you having the ability to stand up for yourself when things make you uncomfortable or things that just simply do not resonate with you. This can look like having to create boundaries whenever it comes to your parents or your friends or even coworkers, anybody throughout your life. Boundaries are such an important thing, you guys, to not allow yourself to be taken to places physically, mentally, or emotionally that you are not comfortable going to. Boundaries are so important, and you have to have at least a core, a little seedling of self-love for yourself before you will be able to create these boundaries. Because like I said earlier, in regards to surviving, even if you do not know how amazing you are, how great you are, how beautiful you are, how intelligent you are, how much you have to offer, other people can see that. So that comes into the self-awareness, which is another point of thriving, and that is being able to accept that life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you, and being able to shift your perspectives into something that are a realistic reality. And also just knowing your worth. And it is so typical to hear that said. If you know your worth, you won't accept anything less. And it is so true, you guys. You have to be able to take off and do away with and even grieve, because it is so necessary. That prickly, holy baby blanket and stop accepting people like that into your life, whether it's relationships or friendships. Get out of the prickly, holy blanket cycle and just don't freaking look back. Burn the blanket. Burn the holy prickly blanket. Burn it. You know? But yeah. Another way that it looks like whenever we're thriving is being able to be true to ourselves, right? Because if we're aware of ourselves and we love ourselves, we're able to chase our goals and bring our dreams to fruition, and how even to be able to have the ability to dream, you know, because sometimes we can be born into expectations of us, and so we don't even allow ourselves to dream any longer, and that is just the saddest thing. And I'm feeling triggered, but it is just the saddest thing to walk around as a human being and to not have dreams and to not have something that you want for yourself, that you are willing to fight for tooth and freaking nail if you have to. That is just so sad to me, you know, because there really truly are in this world so many people that are suffering in ways like that. And if you bring up Google on your phone right now and you Google the definition of the word suffering, the literal verbatim wording of the definition of that does nothing for the multitudes of a way that a human being can feel suffering. It does not even compare, you know. It's more of a contrast. And so, yeah, just being able to be true to you and not being overrun and weighed down by the expectations of others and what other people want for you or what other people feel is or isn't successful. And back to that whole thing, and again, something that I've said before, successful is defined differently by each and every individual, and it's so simple that we complicate it. There is something that you want for yourself, that you see yourself as, or something that you daydream and think about having or owning or doing or being for others. And I just am so for being mentally aware enough and loving yourself enough to be able to bring your dreams to fruition and allow it to be something that's tangible, that you can touch and not just feel the wonders of it in a daydream, to be able to live it out, to reverse and rewrite the story of life is meant to be endured, because it's just not true. It is just not true, you know? Yes, sometimes we have to be able to strap ourselves in and have thick skin to the tides of life. But there's always lessons that we can learn if we allow ourselves in the bad things that happen. You will always, and that whole life happens to you. Catalysts only happen when you need them. Sometimes you need to get swooped underwater and just be so embodied and overrun with emotions that you can understand where you're at, what you've been doing with yourself, where you've been putting yourself and allowing for yourself, and be able to be swept in the emotion of that, to where you just kind of let your little robotic I'm surviving, you know, pieces within you just kind of static out and burn out, and just be able to accept yourself as the emotional, intelligent, hungry individual that you truly are, that just has so much to offer. No, there's something that you can do, or something that you have to offer this world that nobody can do the way that you can do it. And that is something just so beautiful. And I want to ask everybody to have the courage to sit back and bear witness to yourself. You already know where you want to be. Every time, you guys, I get so tired of getting emotional on my videos every time, you guys. But you already know where you want to be and where your happiness is and what it feels like for you and what it looks like for you. You already know. It's already inside of you. It's not a secret. Don't keep it, you know? And just allow yourself to bear witness to yourself wholly and unapologetically, and just follow yourself, because your feet already know the way, and you might have to climb some mountains, and you might have to go through the tide of change and even grieve. You guys, nobody told me how much grief would come into play whenever I started my journey and started actually making changes for myself. Nobody tells you the way that grief can hold you like reins, and you're the horse, trying to run into freedom. Nobody tells you that, not enough anyways, because I had no freaking idea what I was feeling when I was feeling this sadness, and just digging deeper into myself, I found out that it was grief. I had to grieve who I thought that I was, and things that I used to think were important, and things that I used to think meant something about me and other people. And it's just like, there is a grieving process in change, but it is so beautiful to be able to just shed skin. And that's really like what it is. You're not adding things to yourself in this lifetime. That's just not how we were set up within this experience that we're all currently living right now. That's just not what the Matrix has for us right now. And I know it sounds silly to say that, but it is that way. It's being able to unbury yourself from expectations and what others want from you, or your family want for you, or what they define as acceptable or successful, or what things you would have to do to have somebody else be proud of you. Be proud of your damn self. I've said it before. I just want everybody to go to bat for their damn selves and to swing. And yeah, let's see, did I miss anything? Calling yourself thriving is calling yourself out on your bullshit instead of wasting your precious time calling others out on theirs. You cannot change people. You can lead a horse to the water, darling, but you cannot make them drink. Call yourself out. Turn that judgment, that scaling and weighing in on yourself. Allow yourself to, once again, see your own shit. Don't worry about everybody. Don't worry about what everybody's doing, Be able to call yourself out on your own shit. And if you are lucky enough and blessed enough to have friends that will call you out on your shit, give them thanks to the people that will take the time out of their day to do that for other people. Don't just sit back and be that girl or that guy that just sits back and just low-key judges people, and that's what their life is, and they always just want to one-up people. It's like, you deserve so much more than that, And so, let's see what else. Boundaries, self-awareness, self-love. Oh yeah, self-love. Hey, so important. What do you do that is just for you? Whether it's taking your dreams from the 5D and putting them in the 3D and working your ass off to do so, or it's grinding in school academically, being an academic, or what is it? What do you do that's just for you? And it can be little small things, There are so many things in the world, and that's what I was saying back to my point of you are who you are when you are born, and we are just at this day and age and place and space and time that we are not like adding things to ourselves that make us us. We're not doing that. We're uncovering all the BS of expectations and judgments that we took on as our own, and things that people said about us that we accepted were the truth about us, or things that we used to tell ourselves about ourselves. We are trying to lift all that off of us, because you already are who you are in essence. Like I said, it's not a secret, So yeah, and just what do you do that's just for you? And what I was saying before I had to go back to my point that I realized I left there gestating it. What do you do that's just for you? Because times are hard right now, you guys. Times are so hard right now. And I was just saying this the other day on social media. I am so there for the people that are in this right now, and they are just freaking thriving. I'm starting to see so many people just freaking thriving, you know, and I'm so happy that that's what I'm saying. I'm going to go ahead and get into this real quick. The positive things about COVID, you guys, the time out from the matrix. Tell me, you know, so many people that are switching careers right now and changing jobs and going back to school and doing all these things that you would think are out of character for them, or chasing goals that you would think are out of character for them, when really it's just who they are. They had enough time to sit in their own shit and sift through, you know. It's like life is so demanding right now. We need money for everything, you guys. You need money to freaking breathe, you know, and it's just where we're at. But yeah, what do you do that is just for you? You know, whether it's going outside on a sunny day and going for a walk, or making yourself your favorite cup of tea and just, I don't know, enjoying it in the bathtub. Or ladies, like seriously, one of my favorite things to do is like pick flowers and rinse them and then bathe in them. It's so nice. Or even something that you can do, you guys. Here we go. Lauren on her tea, shababble. Jasmine, green tea, you guys. Ladies, even guys, I love to take a few tea bags and put them in the bath with me. Jasmine and green tea are so good for your skin. They relax muscles, ease cramps. They are so good for your skin. If you have any kind of irritations or anything like that, you know, any kind of like dermatitis. And no, I am not a licensed physician. I cannot give medical advice. This is just something that is nice to do for you that I can say works. The first few times I did this, you guys, I got out of the bath just having my whole body feel so relaxed. It was like hot bath to the next level. And it's just amazing for your muscles and for your skin, which is the biggest organ that you have. So anyways, yeah, going on nature walks. Bathing in tea, sipping tea, doing a yoga class. I love yoga. Seeking out a therapist, talking about your problems, having somebody to advise you that is unbiased and professional. I will always pitch these things to people, and it's not even a pitch, it's just a tip, you know? And let's see, what else, you guys? What else do I like to do for me? Painting, you know? Not everybody likes to paint. You don't have to know how to paint. There's no rules to painting, you know? There's no rules to painting. Unless if you use acrylics, rinse your brush, you know? But yeah, you guys. It's just, I wish everybody well, and this is just so important to me because this is something that I have always loved to do. I just haven't allowed myself to do it, and it's kind of hard for me, you know, my own personal thing to battle myself to where it doesn't come off, oh, Lauren knows how to emotionally, mentally do life. No, I struggle all the time, you know, but things that I do learn, that I do know, I do want to be able to share. And I spent the last 2 years of my life fighting for myself, tooth and freaking nail, letting myself go to the shittiest depths of myself and sitting in my shit and not liking the way that it smelled and not liking the way that it looked and not knowing and not liking the things that I knew that I didn't want to know anymore, and just all of that. And the freaking blanket was there with the holes and the prickles, and I was just so over it, you know? And so, yeah, this is for you guys. And if I could, I'll say it again, if I can touch and change one person's life or and better somebody's day, even if it's just for 5 minutes, that means multitudes for me. And if you guys do not know yet, in December on my birthday, I actually launched chronictochronicles.com. I am trying to keep up with keeping that updated as much as I can, but like I said, for what I do, the time strikes when the time strikes, and I just have to let it out whenever it comes to me and envelops me and say what I need to say when I feel like it needs to be shared. And so yeah, I will leave that link down below for you guys. And also, I want to say, if you will do me a solid, if something in this message moved you or touched you or it was something that you needed to hear, you know, go ahead and give me a like and subscribe to my channel for future videos. And thank you guys.